A hand grabbed my backside, sharp and uninvited. "Reagan, babe," a voice slurred. I whipped around, heart racing, to face the CEO, his grin dissolving into panic. "Mila, not you!" he choked, backpedaling. My dress blew, tight, borrowed, felt like a spotlight on my shame. "Get away!" I hissed, cheeks burning. He babbled apologies, thrusting a gin and tonic into my hand before vanishing into the crowd. I stood frozen at the bar, a man in heels among rented capes and candy kisses, wondering if I'd just blown my cover or found a part of me I wasn't ready to face. Sipping my drink, I realized I could pick out most people in the room, though a few costumes stumped me. I wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but dressing like this wasn't something I planned to repeat. A voice came from behind, warm and familiar. "Camille, there you are." It was Logan, a guy from the office, sidling up with a grin. "Saw you standing here alone and thought I'd join you. Hope that's okay." He didn't seem to recognize me, which suited me fine. "No, I don't mind," I said, keeping my voice light. "I'm Logan," he said, his smile widening. "What's your name?" I hesitated. If he didn't know who I wasn't eager to invite the inevitable teasing. "Harper," I replied, flashing a smile. He bought me another drink, and just as it arrived, he took my hand and pulled me toward the dance floor without waiting for an answer. Logan was a smooth dancer, and though I'd never danced with a man before, following his lead came easier than I expected. I only stepped on his foot once. As we swayed, he leaned in, his voice low. "I know who you are." My stomach lurched. "You do?" I asked, bracing myself. "Mason," he said with confidence. "You're Paisley Cooper's alter ego, Peyton." I laughed, deflecting. "Not hardly. She's got a body to die for." He grinned, undeterred. "For my money, you're not doing too badly yourself." I couldn't think of a comeback that wouldn't dig me deeper, so I just smiled and let the music carry us. When the song ended, he guided me back to my drink, his hand light on my arm, and I stood there, caught between the strangeness of the night and the unexpected ease of it all. Logan's invitation to join him at a table caught me off guard, especially after I'd half expected him to drift away. When I hesitated, he gently took my hand, tugging me toward a chair with a charm that made it hard to refuse. Sitting felt like a relief compared to perching on a bar stool, and as he settled across from me, his eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that stirred both curiosity and unease. I could sense he wanted more than just drinks and small talk, but how was I supposed to tell him the truth that his attention was landing on someone who wasn't what he thought? If I spilled it, would he laugh it off, or worse, get angry? The urge to come clean grew stronger, no matter the risk. "Logan," I started, my voice unsteady. "There's something you need to know about me." He leaned in, grinning. "What's to know? You're gorgeous, you're here with me, and you haven't bolted yet." Frustration crept in. "Pay attention, Logan. I'm not who you think I am." He didn't flinch. "I know exactly who you are, and you still look incredible as a woman. You knew that already, didn't you?" My breath caught. "Who am I then?" "You're Easton," he said casually. "But tonight, you're Harper. Let's keep it that way." His nonchalance stunned me. He acted like it was the most natural thing in the world for me to be sitting there in a dress, insisting I was beautiful in a way that felt both flattering and disorienting. I opened my mouth to remind him who I really was, but before I could, he stood and asked me to dance again. Too polite to refuse, I let him lead me back to the floor, his hand steady in mine. As we moved, he dropped a bombshell. "If I asked, would you go out with me?" I nearly tripped. "You know who I am, and you're asking me on a date? Are you out of your mind?" He laughed, undeterred. "Hear me out. I've got a family reunion coming up, and every year since I was 15, my Aunt Cooper tries to set me up with someone. It never works out. If I bring my own date this time, maybe she'll back off." I shook my head, incredulous. "That's the last thing I need, Logan. I'm already out of my comfort zone here. You want me to parade around as the center of attention, gawked at by your entire family? What if they clock me as a guy in a dress? Then what? His grin widened. Even better. They'll think we're a progressive couple, with you making an effort to fit in. It'll throw them off, and Aunt Cooper will finally stop meddling. It's perfect, Harper. I was adamant it was a terrible idea, convinced I couldn't pull off passing as a woman for an entire event. What's it take to convince you? Logan pressed. Has anyone here even hinted you're not a woman tonight? I admitted. No, but... He cut me off, taking my hand and steering me toward a group of senior executives before I could protest. My stomach churned, visions of my career crashing down. Wyatt, Logan said smoothly. Meet Harper. She's with me tonight. To my shock, the group decked out in their own costumes greeted me warmly, the men with smiles, the women with hugs. We chatted briefly before drifting back to our table, where Logan sat, smug and grinning, like he'd just won a bet. I was still reeling. This is insane, Logan. I might fool a few tipsy coworkers, but a whole family? He leaned forward. Think about it, Harper. Nobody's questioned you tonight, not even the execs. You're doing better than you think. He was right, and that unnerved me. Dressing like this wasn't something I enjoyed, but it hadn't been as awful as I'd feared. Logan's hand brushed mine, sending a strange jolt through me, feminine, almost, though I couldn't pin it down. I pulled my hand back, meeting his gaze. Those big blue eyes were practically begging. Desperate to redirect, I blurted, "Why not ask Mason? She's single, and I know she's into you." Logan's grin softened. I was going to, but then I saw you. Honestly, you make Finn look like she's wearing a potato sack. You don't want to admit it, but you're pulling this off better than you think, and I can see you're having fun, even if you're scared someone will figure you out. His words stung with truth. You still haven't answered why me, Logan. Why not one of your many conquests? He leaned back, sighing. You know the executive board just approved 2 slots for people with alternate lifestyles? I blinked, stunned. No. When? A few days ago, he said, his voice steady. The revelation hung between us, shifting the air. Logan wasn't just playing a game, he saw me, really saw me, and wasn't fazed. As the music pulsed and the crowd swirled around us, I realized I was standing at a crossroads, caught between the safety of who I'd always been and the unsettling thrill of who I might become, if only for one more night. Logan's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, his eyes glinting with a plan that felt both reckless and tantalizing. A little birdie told me I invited Jackson, our esteemed Hadley, to the reunion before I knew about those new slots. Picture this. He sees you as a woman, arm in arm with me. What's he gonna think? That you're Paisley, and one or both of us is Skylar. It's a straight shot to those promotions for both of us. Don't you see? It's perfect. My stomach twisted. I'd clawed my way toward a promotion, only to be stalled by my refusal to play the office politics Logan navigated so effortlessly. His scheme sounded like a betrayal of everything I stood for, yet the promise of a single step up the ladder, one that could position me for more, gnawed at me. Logan was in the same boat, dangling just out of reach of the next rung. Before I could respond, I caught sight of Jackson, our CEO, waving from across the room, his strides closing the distance fast. I shot Logan a panicked glance. "What are you two scheming about?" Jackson asked, his tone light but probing. "You look awfully cozy." Logan didn't miss a beat. "Just asked Harper to be my date for the reunion." Jackson's face lit up. "Then I'll look forward to seeing you both there." Fury surged through me. Logan had cornered me, and Jackson's approval made it nearly impossible to back out. "When's the reunion?" I asked, my voice tight with resignation. 6 weeks, Logan said, his excitement barely contained. "You'll do it?" "I'll think about it," I muttered. Undeterred, he pressed on. "Let me take you to dinner tomorrow. Think of it as practice." Something about Jackson's expectation that I'd show up as a woman at Logan's family reunion must have scrambled my judgment. To this day, I don't know why I nodded yes, But Logan's face broke into a grin, all animation and charm. When the night wound down, he walked me to my car, his voice soft as he called me beautiful one last time before I shut the door. Driving home, I knew I was out of my mind. I told myself I'd call Logan in the morning to call it off, but when I stepped inside and caught my reflection in the mirror, the woman staring back, someone who looked like me but wasn't, unsettled me. I peeled off the dress, scrubbed away the makeup, and collapsed into bed, wrestling with whether to follow through with Logan's absurd plan. Morning came, and over coffee, doubt gnawed at me. If I went through with this, I'd need more than the one outfit. But what kind? How many? What style? At 23, single, with no girlfriend or sister to turn to, my only option was my mom. The thought of that call filled me with dread, but I grabbed the phone and dialed. When I spilled the story, Logan's proposal, Jackson's reaction, the promotions, she burst into laughter before saying she'd be over. Hanging up, I wondered what I'd just set in motion. An hour later, Mom arrived, still chuckling as I recounted the night's chaos. Logan's pitch, Jackson's blessing, and the tantalizing prospect of a 20% raise. I admitted I was either crazy or delusional for even considering it. She didn't disagree, but noted I'd looked convincing as a woman, then started jotting down a list of essentials I'd need to pull it off again. The list felt daunting, but she waved it off, saying it was nothing compared to what I'd need if I kept this up. Her tone suggested she thought I'd already decided, though I hadn't. After coffee, she told me to grab my wallet. We were going shopping. She didn't call me crazy or ask if I enjoyed dressing as a woman. She just said she liked our family as it was and wanted it to stay that way. I insisted I was only doing this for a friend, which earned me a skeptical look. That's when I brought up the promotion slots and their criteria again. "So," she said quietly, "you're planning to claim you enjoy dressing as a woman, maybe even want to be one to snag that promotion?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. "It's a lot of money." "Why not?" She fixed me with a steady gaze. "Have you thought about what happens after you show up as a woman? You might have to keep it up." I pushed back. "No way. I know guys who dress up occasionally." "Sure," she said, "but for a promotion like that, don't you think they'll expect you to show up at work as a woman? And doesn't that mean you'd have to be one all the time?" Her words landed like a punch, forcing me to confront the weight of what I was considering. As we headed out the door, my wallet in hand, the line between a one-night disguise and something far more permanent blurred, and I wondered if I was ready to cross it. Mom's words hung heavy, her voice cutting through the haze of my thoughts. "Otherwise, any guy could claim they're Paisley, and who'd know? How do you prove it? Show up, snap a few pictures, and call it a day? I don't think they'd buy that, do you?" The realization hit like a cold wave. I hadn't considered it, but she was right. My dreams of a promotion started to fray at the edges. Dressing as a woman for one night was one thing, but at work? Every day? My heart sank as the weight of what I'd have to do settled in. It wasn't about qualifications. Logan, Nolan, and I were all neck and neck, each of us hungry for that 20% raise. We'd all poured years into the grind. If I went all in, dressing as a woman, and Logan played the card he was hinting at, we'd have an edge over anyone else, including Sienna. But at what cost? Dressing as a woman to climb the ladder felt like a gamble with stakes I couldn't fully grasp. If I showed up at work as a woman, Mom's warning would become reality. I'd be locked into that role. Even if a headhunter swooped in with a better offer, or worse, if I didn't get the promotion, I'd be stuck. And then there was Logan's reunion, where Jackson would be watching. Logan had framed it as the perfect stage to reveal ourselves. But what came after? As we sat at the kitchen table, Mom scribbling her list, she seemed to read my mind. Out of nowhere, she said, "If you're set on becoming a woman, you might as well do it right. Get the best breast forms money can buy, padding for your hips that doesn't feel like torture, maybe even hair extensions." Her suggestions piled up, each one making the list longer and my doubts louder. I'd only dressed as a woman for a party, not to launch a new life, yet everyone, myself included, had been stunned by how convincing I'd been. Now I was torn, caught between staying true to myself and taking a shot at the promotion, or risking it all by stepping into a role I'd never imagined. My instincts recoiled at the idea of dressing as a woman full-time, but the thought of that raise a better 401k, a nicer apartment, a life upgraded in every way kept pushing back. The next promotion up was even juicier, a fact that loomed large. If I went for it, I'd be betting everything on a chance, knowing the fallout could force me to quit or stay in dresses forever. Switching back after committing would be a disaster, plain as day. Mom sat quietly as my thoughts churned, her face giving nothing away except those steady blue eyes locked on mine. Greed, I suppose, played its part, along with the memory of how I'd looked in the mirror last night. When I met her gaze again, I didn't speak. I just nodded. We finished our coffee in silence, and I found myself wondering if I could ever carry myself with the grace she did her smooth, milky skin and faint wrinkles, a kind of effortless elegance. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "You know this means hours of effort just to look the part, shaving, all of it. Being a woman isn't like being a man. Things you take for granted will change. Simple things like walking to your car alone at night. Women don't do that unless they have to. Men just walk. Your voice, your walk, how you move, everything has to shift. If you're not deliberate, you'll look like a man in a dress." "This will be hard, honey. If you're convinced it's right, I'll help you. Otherwise, I'll be watching you become the biggest fool anyone's ever seen." Her words stung, but they were true. When she stood, I followed her to the car without a word, like the dutiful son I'd always been. The weight of my choice pressed down, a mix of ambition and uncertainty, as we drove toward a future I could barely picture. The moment Mom stood and I stayed silent, trailing her out the door, I'd sealed my fate, at least for a date and a family reunion I had no business attending. Her resolve was unshakable that morning, her voice steady as she acknowledged my choice, while making it clear she'd rather I stayed her son. Still, she understood the corner I was in, the ambition driving me, and declared our first stop would be a prosthetic shop. "To get the right clothes," she said, "we need to know your size. The dress you wore might not cut it once we're done." I didn't fully grasp what she meant, but I trusted her, letting her lead without protest. The shop was a blur of mortification. Mom sat calmly, explaining to the technician why I needed the best breast forms money could buy, while I squirmed under the woman's unflinching gaze. She measured me with clinical precision, testing forms without asking for input. After several tries, she held one to my chest, her grin signaling she'd found the perfect fit. When she glanced at Mom and got a subtle nod, I knew what was coming. Glue smeared across my skin, and I froze. Up until that moment, I could have walked away, back to my apartment, back to myself. But I didn't. One form, then the other, adhered to my chest, held briefly before she let go. I stared down, stunned. They looked real, felt real, and to my quiet shame, a part of me was thrilled. The technician wasn't done. "We have padded panties for customers needing more roundness," she said, "or one that does that and makes you look like a natural woman. Drop your pants and I'll measure you." By the time she finished, my figure was, as Mom put it, to die for. My old clothes hung awkwardly, no trace of my maleness left. Since shopping in ill-fitting clothes was a non-starter, Mom took me home, where I slipped back into the dress and heels from the night before, transforming once again into Harper. Then we hit the stores. Mom warned that the glue on the breast forms would hold until I used the solvent, but with a date tonight and the reunion looming, there was no rush to remove them. In the lingerie section, she piled bras, slips, a robe, and a nightgown into my arms. Skirts, blouses, shorts, tops, a suit, shoes. My credit card groaned under the weight of it all. By the time we got home, my head was spinning, the cost and chaos making me question if this was worth it. "Landon," Mom said with a sly grin, "those forms are stuck on tight. Take a week off or go to work as a woman on Monday. They come off, but she did such a good job, it'd be a shame to remove them now. especially with your date and the reunion coming up." As she left, a sinking feeling settled in the kind that whispers you've bitten off more than you can handle. Standing alone, I realized this wasn't just about greed. Beyond the money, there was status, a higher rung on the ladder. I stepped to the mirror, staring at the woman we'd crafted. The choice I'd made felt so drastic I could barely believe it was mine. I could remove the forms, scrub it all away, and be myself again. But that would mean wasting the money, letting Logan down, and maybe torching my future. A college grad should have been smarter, but ambition had clouded my judgment, leaving me face to face with Harper. My hands grazed the breast forms, their lifelike feel startling me anew. My hips curved softly, my backside full, like any woman my age. Between my legs, a subtle tuft of hair barely concealed a delicate seam, completing the illusion. The mirror held a truth I couldn't shake. I'd crossed a line, and whether driven by money, status, or something deeper, I was Harper now for better or worse. I lingered in front of the mirror, the weight of my decision pressing down. I'd spent a small fortune, and backing out now would mean throwing it all away. Whether it was a lack of willpower or some buried part of me that didn't mind being Harper, I knew I'd be walking into work tomorrow as a woman. Stripped down to the padded panty and breast forms, my reflection was undeniable. The extra padding cinched my waist, and with my maleness tucked away, I looked so convincingly female I'd have to sit to use the bathroom. My short hair was the only flaw, breaking the illusion. Slipping into a skirt and blouse, I pinned the wig back on, but it wasn't enough. My dad's old saying echoed, "If there's no choice, do your best." It finally clicked. I'd crossed a line between my instinctive resistance to seeing myself as a woman and the reality staring back at me. Grabbing my purse, I headed out to find a salon, determined to finish what Mom and I had started. The fog of doubt lifted as I drove, clarity replacing hesitation. I didn't know what extensions were or how they worked, only that Mom had mentioned them. Long hair felt unimaginable, so I decided to let the stylist take the lead. Confidence carried me until I reached the salon door, where my hand froze on the handle. A woman exiting pushed it open, and suddenly I was inside, hit by a wave of chemical scents that jolted me. A cheerful voice broke through. "Camille, I'm Riley. Do you have an appointment?" I stammered. "No, but—" "No worries, honey. Quinn's free, her 2 o'clock canceled. Let me grab her." Quinn, barely older than me, spotted the wig instantly. Without a word, she led me to her station, setting up a screen for privacy. She removed the wig, revealing my unmistakably male haircut, but didn't bat an eye. "We've got some work to do, don't we?" she said lightly. I hesitated, then mumbled. "Mom mentioned extensions?" Her eyebrows rose. "Your mother?" I nodded. "Extensions would work, but they're pricey and time-consuming. Can I suggest something else?" I nodded again. "Hair grows about 1/4 inch a month," she explained. "Yours is longer than most guys. I can work with it, style it like plenty of women with short hair. We'll let it grow to the length you want. Sound good?" I agreed, and she got to work, clipping and snipping, setting rollers, and applying a mild solution to hold the style. "Is this an everyday thing or just for a weekend?" she asked. "Every day," I admitted. She nodded, unfazed, and suggested I get my nails done while under the dryer, mentioning a weekly special. Past the point of retreat, I agreed, clueless about what nails entailed beyond polish. A younger girl rolled over a table, cleaning and shaping each nail with startling speed. By the time she finished, my nails were longer, smoother, and tipped with soft plum polish I'd picked on a whim. They looked undeniably feminine. Back at Quinn's station, I wasn't prepared for the mirror. My mousy brown hair now shimmered with fine blonde streaks. The natural brown deepened slightly. Rollers had added volume, curling gently across the top, while Quinn brushed the sides down, framing my face. The style was as feminine as any woman's on the street, and as I stared, the reality of Harper solidified not just a costume, but a commitment I was ready to own. Quinn tilted the chair back, brushed my bangs aside, and slathered on some goo. After a brief pause, she ripped off the wax strip, and I yelped, pain flaring as she grinned. One more yank, and she spun me to face the mirror. Any protest I might have had was pointless. Nothing about me screamed male anymore. I paid the steep bill, wincing but thanking Quinn as she booked me for a follow-up a month out. At home, confusion swirled. I'd never fantasized about women's clothes, yet the mirror didn't lie. The sway of my walk, the bounce of my chest, the whisper of nylons, the gleam of plum nails, the arch of my brows, all of it made me feel pretty. The word felt alien, but it fit, and stranger still, I liked it. A wave of femininity crashed over me, urging me to lean in. Glancing at the clock, I slipped into the little black dress Mom called a must-have, its sleek lines hugging my new curves. Black heels, a gold choker, a spritz of perfume, and I was ready. With time before Logan's arrival, I decided to show Mom the final product, grabbed my purse, and drove to her house. I let myself in as always, following voices to the kitchen. Mom's jaw dropped when she saw me, and there, of all people, was my brother, Brooklyn. We froze, staring. He shot out of his chair like he'd been jabbed. "Camden," he said, gesturing to a seat. As I sat, he continued, "Mom said you tried being a woman and looked pretty. I thought you'd look like a guy in a dress, but—" Mom cut in. "Harper's just as lovely as I said, isn't she?" Brooklyn gawked, his eyes drifting to the tops of my breasts, indistinguishable from the real thing. My styled hair, polished nails, and arched brows, details he'd expect on a woman through him. He knew I was his brother, but I sat there as his sister, and it rattled him. He muttered "damn" a few times until Mom shushed him. "Looks like you've decided," she said, her finger tracing her brow in quiet acknowledgement of my salon work. Brooklyn grinned. "When Mom told me, I knew you'd go all in. You never half-ass anything. I was right." He fumbled. "How do I treat a sister?" Mom's voice was firm. "With respect, like any woman." Brooklyn, ever the charmer, quipped, "I was hoping to dip her pigtails in ink." A year older, tall, and never without a woman on his arm, he'd been with Wyatt for over a year, and we all figured she'd tame him eventually. Mom suggested dinner out, then remembered my date. "Why not have Logan meet us there, Harper?" I called him, explained, and he agreed to join. Brooklyn drove Mom and me to the restaurant, dropping us at the door. We were navigating to our table when Wyatt appeared, her voice icy. "Callie, Kira." Her tone softened as she eyed me. "And who's this?" Brooklyn, barely containing himself, said, "Wyatt, this is my sister, Harper." "Harper, Wyatt." Her eyes narrowed. "Kira, like I'll believe that. You don't have a sister. Sawyer Easton, and he's—" She stared at me, realization dawning slowly in her wide eyes, as the truth clicked into place. Wyatt's eyes widened, piecing it together. "Camden!" she gasped. "You're—" I cut in with a smile. "My name's Harper." Mom chimed in. "Brooklyn's sister and my daughter." Relief washed over Wyatt's face. She wasn't losing Brooklyn to some mystery woman. Her demeanor flipped, all smiles and jokes, though her eyes kept darting to me, as if trying to reconcile who I was. Logan arrived soon after, his expression confirming I'd fully transformed into Harper. He slid into the seat beside me, and dinner passed in a blur of chatter. As we wrapped up, Mom suggested she'd drive herself home, so Brooklyn and Wyatt took her car, leaving Logan to offer me a ride. With everyone gone, he led me to his car, and since it was still early, I invited him into my apartment, ready to shake him up a bit. In the bedroom, I swapped the black dress for the new peignoir and robe set, the sheer fabric clinging to my curves. Sweeping past Logan into the kitchen, I caught his jaw drop, his eyes glued to my cleavage. By the time he recovered, I was perched on the couch, knees together, hands folded. Logan's reputation with women was no secret, and I wanted him to see my commitment, not test his charm. "Camden!" he blurted. "Stand up! Let me see!" I rose, letting him take it all in. Want a drink? I think I need one. I'll pass, I said. He downed his in one gulp, then stepped close, taking my hands. I didn't think much of it until his arm slid around my waist, pulling me in. Logan, what are you doing? I snapped. Since we're supposed to be lovers, he said smoothly. Shouldn't we at least kiss? Makes sense, right? No, it doesn't, I shot back. Who said we're lovers? You. What if I bail on this? Your reputation with women is legendary. How are you going to sell that you're Skylar? And what about me? He didn't flinch. Let's talk about you. Waxed brows, glossy nails, styled hair with highlights, flawless makeup, hips, a killer ass in those, he said, pointing at my chest. Need I go on? I bristled. Fine, I'm going to work as a woman, but that doesn't mean we're— No way! Before I could finish, his lips crashed into mine, his grip tightening as he pulled me closer, his hand sliding to my backside. I pushed back, but his tongue brushed my lips, and with a gasp, I opened my mouth. Eyes closed, I could almost pretend I was kissing a woman until his stubble grazed my skin. His relentless kiss chipped away at my long-held boundaries, stirring something unfamiliar. Gasping for air, I barely broke free before he kissed me again, both hands now on my hips, holding me close. Without thinking, my arms looped around his neck, a reflex that felt distinctly feminine. Then I felt his hardness pressing against my leg, undeniable and pulsing. My heart raced, sweat trickling down my spine. But Logan didn't let go. You don't realize how sexy you are, he murmured. Or maybe you do, with that barely there outfit. It was to show you I'm all in for the promotion, I snapped, not to be another conquest. He smirked. Why not? I can show you how fun being a woman can be. No way, maybe never. You should go. I'll see you at work. Grudgingly, he left, promising to find me first thing. Sleep eluded me that night, the weight of tomorrow looming. Stepping into the office as Harper would change everything. Logan's kiss, his taste. The roughness of his face lingered, complicating things. I couldn't quit now. I'd gone too far, and that kiss, in my mind, sealed it. Morning came early. I applied makeup with care, my hair snapping back into its styled waves. Reaching for a bra, I knew I had to look as polished as any woman could. I laid out the suit, its sharp lines waiting to carry me into a future I was both chasing and dreading. I stepped into clean panties, rolled on pantyhose, and buttoned the white blouse, its crisp fabric settling over my new curves. The bright red skirt, straight and just above the knees, paired with a navy jacket, gave me a sharp, professional edge. A swipe of lipstick, a spritz of perfume, clip-on earrings, a thin bracelet, and I slipped into red heels. Taking a deep breath, I opened the front door and stepped into the uncertain future. At the office, I climbed out of the car, the steel-framed doors gleaming ahead. As I turned to walk in, a hand caught my elbow. Good morning, Harper. Didn't expect to see you again. You look lovely. It was Jackson. Thank you, I stammered. I decided to— Don't worry so much, he said warmly. Your work won't suffer for wearing something different. Just do your job and it'll be fine. We walked in together. I'll get a new sign for your office. Last name? I nodded, unsure what to say. See you later, he said, striding off. Heads turned as I entered, but no one spoke. I grabbed coffee, settled into my office, and dove into work. Barely 30 minutes passed before Mason burst in, shutting the door. You look different, Easton. Or is that not right? What do we call you? Harper, I said, steadying myself. Her tone soured. Logan said you're cute as hell, Harper. I think he's got a crush. She watched me closely, but I stayed silent. He mentioned your dinner last night, said you had a nice time. It was fine, I said. He paid. Why? Her eyes narrowed. You might not know, so I'll spell it out. Logan and I are a couple. I knew it was a lie. Logan had dropped her months ago over her marriage obsession, but I played along. I didn't know. I'll keep that in mind. But isn't it up to Logan who he wants to be with? She stood, reiterated they were together, and left, slamming the door. It was clear she and I were headed for trouble. An hour later, my first real challenge hit. The restroom. The men's room was out of the question, so I slipped into the ladies'. I finished quickly and was washing my hands when Finn walked in. She said nothing, but her scowl spoke volumes. The week rolled on with only a few such hiccups. Each evening, I stopped at a department store, carefully expanding my wardrobe with an eye toward the promotion. One morning, as I headed to my office, Brielle, Jackson's secretary, intercepted me. "Jackson wants to see you." We walked to his office and she knocked. "Close the door, Harper." I sat, nerves tingling. "Is this how you'll come to work from now on? As a woman? It's been over a week, and you're always impeccably dressed." "Is there a problem?" I asked. "If not, then yes, I plan to." "Why?" He leaned back. "You know the government directed us to open hiring and promotions to minorities?" I nodded. "Minority includes anyone not male or white, which gives me broad criteria. Since you're committing to this, I'm pleased to say you'll be promoted to VP effective next Monday, but you'll need to legally change your name to meet the guidelines. Can you do that?" "Absolutely," I said, a grin breaking through. "I'll announce it at Friday's staff meeting," he continued. "Keep it quiet until then. Your new office will be the third down the hall, but you can't move in until Monday." As I stood to leave, he added, "When Logan mentioned taking you to his reunion, I wasn't shocked. I saw how you two were at the party." His words lingered as I left, the promotion within reach, but tangled in the web of Logan's plans, and my new reality as Harper. Jackson's parting words about the reunion lingered, but I pushed them aside as Logan popped into my office for a quick hello. I was dying to ask if he'd been promoted and to spill my own news, but the office wasn't the place, and Mason's warning still hung over me. I asked him to call me later instead. When he did, I told him about Finn's restroom glare, which set him off, but I urged him not to confront her. "Just leave it," I said firmly. The week flew by, and coworkers grew accustomed to Harper, most offering little more than a shrug. My lawyer finalized my name change by Friday, making me legally Harper Camille, age 23. Mom wasn't thrilled, but gave her blessing, even suggesting Camille as my middle name. Friday morning, I chose a gray skirt, white mock turtleneck, pink jacket, and gray heels, my hair and makeup near flawless. At the staff meeting, Jackson announced my promotion to VP without mentioning minority guidelines, and I stood to polite applause. The second slot, to my shock, went to Sienna, not Logan. He leaned against the wall, his smile forced, his disappointment palpable. I wanted to reach out, but Jackson summoned Sienna and me to his office, leaving Logan behind. In his office, Jackson clarified our roles. "The reasons for your promotions don't matter. To avoid disputes, Harper gets the office next to mine, Sienna the one after. Harper's seniority makes her senior VP, running day-to-day operations. Sienna, you'll handle outside operations and report to her." I had questions. Who fills our old roles, and who takes Sienna's CFO position? Jackson leaned back. "That's your call, Harper. You now handle all promotions, hiring, and firings." "Any suggestions?" I didn't hesitate. "Everyone knows Logan was on the promotion list. Why not make him CFO? It'll bump him up, give him more pay and authority. I'll review files for the other roles." Jackson's face tightened, like he'd swallowed something sour. "Logan's got a complaint against him, Harper. I can't promote him with that hanging." Sienna pressed. "Can you share the details?" He nodded. "Mason filed a sexual harassment claim." "That's nonsense," I snapped. "Last week, Mason stormed into my office, claiming she and Logan were a couple, warning me to back off. I told Logan, and he said he'd handle it. This must be her retaliation." Jackson's eyes narrowed. "Since you're so well-versed, Harper, you resolve it. If Logan's cleared, he can have the CFO role." He turned to Sienna. "Be in the room whenever this is discussed to avoid any confusion." We went straight to my office, and I called Mason in. Sienna closed the door and stood guard. "Mason," I began, "I'm Senior VP now, with full authority over staff. You've filed a complaint against Logan, but we know it's baseless. Care to explain?" She froze, speechless. I pressed on. "You and Logan dated briefly, but it fizzled. You couldn't let go, thinking you were fine as long as he was single. Then you saw us together, came to my office, and all but threatened me. When Logan called you out, you filed this claim." I stared her down. "How am I doing?" "You bitch!" she shrieked. "You stole Logan!" Sienna burst out laughing, which only fueled Mason's rage. "Why are you laughing?" she demanded. Sienna grinned. "Forgotten already? Harper's in transition, not even a complete woman yet. How could she compete with you?" Mason looked ready to combust, but I pushed harder. "Now that we've got the facts, want to withdraw your complaint, or should I?" Tears welled, but she spat. "Fine. Withdraw it. And I quit." "Resignation accepted," I said coolly. "Sienna, ensure she clears out her things and leaves." As Mason stormed out, the weight of my new role and the tangled mess with Logan settled in, with the reunion looming like a storm on the horizon. Jackson's words about the reunion echoed in my mind, but Logan's brief visit to my office kept things light. I was itching to ask about his promotion status and share mine, but with Mason's accusations lingering and Jackson's warning to stay quiet, I held back, asking him to call me later instead. That night, I told him about Finn's restroom scowl, which riled him up, but I insisted he let it go. "Don't call her," I said firmly. The week sped by, co-workers adjusting to Harper with little fuss. By Friday, my lawyer had finalized my name change to Harper Camille, age 23. Mom, though uneasy, supported me and suggested Camille. At the staff meeting, I wore a gray skirt, white mock turtleneck, pink jacket, and gray heels, my hair and makeup polished. Jackson announced my promotion to Senior VP without mentioning minority guidelines, drawing modest applause. Sienna, not Logan, took the second slot. Logan's forced smile against the wall betrayed his disappointment, but I couldn't approach him before Jackson called Sienna and me to his office. In his office, Jackson outlined our roles, naming me Senior VP, with Sienna reporting to me. When I asked about filling our old positions, he put me in charge of all staffing decisions. I suggested Logan for CFO, but Jackson revealed Mason's harassment claim, which I debunked, leading to her resignation. After Jackson's approval, I called Logan in, shared the good news about his CFO role, and pointed him to his new office. With a massive government contract fueling the company's growth, Jackson had promoted multiple people and added staff. Sienna kept her secretary, I chose Declan, and Logan picked Wyatt. It took 2 weeks to slot everyone into new roles, bringing us to the reunion weekend. The forecast promised warmth, so I planned my outfit. A lightweight summer dress with a swimsuit, khaki shorts, and a top packed for flexibility. Past mishaps snagged hose, blistering shoes taught me to be prepared, so I kept spare pantyhose and sneakers at work. Nearly a month since I first dressed as Harper, my life had transformed. Things I once took for granted, like appearance, now mattered deeply. Crude jokes from male coworkers faded as they saw me as a woman, shifting how they spoke and acted around me. In the shower that morning, I realized I loved being Harper. The losses my ties to the male world were outweighed by gains. Self-insight, better connections with others, and a softer presence, as my secretary noted. I'd grown accustomed to my new body breasts, rounded hips, no trace of maleness, and the rituals of longer hair, thinner brows, and manicured nails. Yet one frontier remained: intimacy with a man. Curiosity flickered, but my lingering masculine pride held firm, and I wasn't ready to cross that line. As I dressed, I wondered about Logan's motives. He'd used me to fend off his aunt's matchmaking, but with his promotion hopes dashed, our couple act seemed pointless. I chose a cotton bra with underwires, white panties, and swapped the dress for khaki shorts and a top, paired with ankle socks and gym shoes. My makeup was minimal pale eyeshadow, liner, lipstick accented by stud earrings, a gold bracelet, and perfume. Logan arrived on time, and we drove to the park in near silence, his only words a quiet, "Thanks for being here." At the picnic, his aunt's smile faded when she saw me, but the family was warm, treating me like one of their own. Logan, though, kept his distance, puzzling me until Jackson pulled me aside by the lake. "Logan's struggling, Harper," he said softly. "I had to choose, and Sienna's tenure as CFO gave her the edge. Now Logan reports to you, and he's attracted to you. That's a tough spot. He'll never know if pursuing you would be misread, or if a promotion was earned. And how can you ensure your assessments of him are fair if he's chasing you?" His words hit hard, exposing the delicate balance between my role, Logan's ambitions, and the undeniable spark complicating everything. Jackson's words cut deep, confirming the distance I'd sensed in Logan. "It's impossible, Harper, and that's why he's less attentive." I'd started this journey for a promotion, only to discover I didn't mind being Harper, maybe even liked it. Mom's support, Brooklyn's teasing-turned acceptance, and my staff's seamless shift to treating me as a woman had woven Harper into every corner of my life. As Jackson walked away, the lake's calm surface mirrored my turmoil. I faced a choice: stay a man in silicone and a styled haircut, or fully embrace life as a woman. Lost in thought, I didn't hear Avery, Logan's cousin, approach. "Camille," he said lightly. I turned, recognizing him. "Callie," I replied. "You're Avery, right?" He grinned. "Are you and Logan together?" "Just friends," I said. His eyes lit up. "Then maybe you'll let me take you to dinner." Bare-chested, muscular, with a radiant smile, Avery was undeniably handsome, about my age, and in law school. I had no doubt he was never short of company. "Saturday night?" he pressed. I nodded, handing him my card with my address scribbled on the back. As he drifted off, I caught Logan's gaze, his face a mix of resignation and something heavier, like he knew we were drifting apart. Logan drove me home in silence, dropping me off without so much as a glance. Inside, I locked the door and headed to my bedroom, my emotions churning. The shower's hot water couldn't wash away the regret over losing Logan's support. He'd set me on this path, and I'd hoped he'd be my anchor through the doubts. After a small dinner, I sulked on the couch, then slipped into my laciest nightgown, craving comfort. As I drifted to sleep, my mind spun into a vivid dream. I felt a zipper sliding down, a hand fumbling with my bra clasp, then the release as it loosened, my breasts settling. His touch was warm on my bare back, stroking until I melted, purring under his caress. I was someone else a woman desired, an object of intense want, and I reveled in it. I pulled away, ready to dress and flee, but he stepped forward, easing the dress off my shoulders. It pooled at my feet, leaving me in panties, heels, and pantyhose. He tossed my bra aside, unbuttoning his shirt. Caught in the moment, I pushed his hands away, undressing him myself. His shirt revealed a chiseled, hairy chest. I unbuckled his pants, letting them fall. He led me to the bedroom, where I struck a sultry pose on the bed, watching him shed his boxers, his arousal unmistakable. His weight pressed the mattress, and I lay back, unsure but certain I was crossing a line I'd never imagined. His lips roamed my body, igniting every sensitive spot, driving me wild. My hand found him, his hardness overwhelming, and I stroked, lost in the rhythm. He was patient, teasing the soft skin of my throat until I was dizzy with want. Then he straddled me, his finger tracing from my nose to my toes before he shifted, kneeling close. His gentle tug guided me, and I felt him against my lips. Despite old aversions, it wasn't what I'd feared. I explored with my tongue, tentative at first, then bolder, taking him in. His rhythm set the pace, but I adjusted, gripping his hip, caught in a moment that felt both foreign and electrifying, a step into a self I was only beginning to understand. The dream's intensity lingered, a vivid blur of surrender and desire. I'd never imagined myself in bed with a man, yet there I was, giving in to the thrill of being wanted as a woman. Straddling Avery, I teased him mercilessly, my lips and hands driving him wild until he erupted, pulses hitting the back of my throat. I was no longer anything but a woman lost in ecstasy, holding on until he stilled, grinning beneath me. My own fire burned unquenched, so I lay beside him, nails grazing his chest, lips brushing his nipples, coaxing him back to life. When he stirred, I moved again, but his fingers found my most sensitive spot, pushing me to a quivering edge. Then, from behind, he entered me, each stroke building until he gripped my hips and released. Exhausted, he collapsed, and I flopped beside him, marveling at the pleasure. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, the bed soaked. Stumbling to the bathroom, I slammed the door, reeling. It felt so real, yet I was alone, Avery's face the only one etched in my mind. I cleaned up, changed into a fresh nightgown, and stripped the sheets, but the dream clung, unshakable. It revealed a truth. I'd embraced being the woman Avery desired, and I loved it. Morning came, and no shower could erase the dream's pull. I wasn't sure I wanted it gone. By noon, Declan burst into my office. "Harper, there's a total hunk here for you." I stepped out to find Avery, radiant in a charcoal suit, exuding confidence. "Harper," he said, taking my hands, "I couldn't wait until Saturday. You're all I can think about." "Lunch? We'll figure this out together." In that moment, I knew. I let him whisk me away, and we spent lunch, then Saturday and Sunday with Jackson, drawn to each other in ways I hadn't anticipated. By Friday, I visited Mom, needing her wisdom. "I'm not Skylar," I began. "But," she cut in, "you're not just Skylar. You're a desirable woman Avery can't resist. You chose this life, and though I had doubts, it's right for you. Now you've met a man who makes you tingle, don't you?" I nodded, silent. She led me to her bedroom. "Undress and tell me what you see." I stripped, standing before the mirror. "What do you see?" she pressed. Tears welled as I whispered, "A woman." "That's right, Harper. Your dream proved it. Maybe you were always a woman inside." As I dressed, Brooklyn arrived for his usual visit. After Mom's pointed look, I told him I'd transition fully. He wasn't shocked, just nodded. Avery returned to law school, and I began the transition program. Within months, my body changed. By 6 months, my beard vanished, freeing me from constant makeup. I stopped using breast forms, Logan resigned, Jackson retired, and I was named CEO. Avery's daily emails burned with passion, and I pushed for surgery, completing my transition a month before his return. When he came back, I proved I was every inch the woman he needed. That dream? It paled against reality. We took a week on the coast, lost in each other. With money, a man, and my life as a woman. What more could I want?